Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parshat here on Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva. I'd like to share with you two short pieces from Rav Schwab on this week's Parsha of Shoftim. The beginning of the Parsha speaks about the nature of leadership, of Jewish leaders of various kinds, and one of those is, of course, the king, the Melech, in what's called Parshas HaMelech, the section of the Parsha that deals with the laws of kings. Torah tells us many restrictions that are placed upon the king, obligations placed upon the king, such as writing to Sifrei Torah and carrying it with him and abiding by its laws, etc., so that the king of Israel is not just a political figure, but a religious figure as well that upholds the mandate of the Torah and tries to infuse the nation with the spirit of the Torah as well. One of the restrictions placed on the king is lo yarbe lo nashim velo yasur levavo. That the king should not have too many wives that will, God forbid, cause his heart to be led astray. So Rosh Schwab notes, Medrash Shemos Rabbah, Medrash on this pasuk says, "Velo yarbe lo nashim velo yasur levavo." When this pasuk was read, Amad Shlomo HaMelech v'hichkim al gzeiraso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Shlomo HaMelech heard this pasuk and immediately stood up and tried to outsmart the wit of the Torah, the wit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'amar, Lama Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yarbe lo nashim lo bishvil shelo yasur levavo ani arbe v'libi lo yasir. He says, well, the pasuk told us why Hashem didn't want a king to have too many wives, and the reason was because if they had too many wives, they would be in danger of their heart being led astray. Wives were from many different nations around the world, many idolatrous nations, and they would bring in their culture, they would bring in their influence, they would bring in their idols. And therefore the Torah was worried that if a king had too many wives and political alliances in the world around them, in the cultural world that was a threat to the Jewish people, that his heart would be led astray and he would come to make a mistake. So Shlomo HaMelech hears the pasuk. He hears the restriction, lo yarbe lo nashim, and he says to himself, it's clear, lo yasur levavo, because God doesn't want my heart to be led astray. So he says, I have the perfect solution. I, myself, can violate, quote-unquote, the dictates of this pasuk and can be marbe nashim, because the reason for the pasuk, lo yasur levavo, doesn't apply to me. I'm beyond that. I'm above that. I know I can guard myself. I know I can keep myself. No matter how many wives I have, I'm never going to be led astray. If I'm not going to be led astray, then the restriction of lo yarbe lo nashim doesn't apply to me. Amru Rabbeinu Osa Sha Alta Yud should be Yarbe V'nishtatcha Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'Amar Ribon HaOlamim Lo Kach Amarta Ein Os Betela Min HaTorah LaOlam Harei Shlomo Omer Mevata Losi. The Medrash continues and says it's a fictitious conversation that happens. As Shlomo HaMelech hears the pasuk and claims that the pasuk doesn't apply to him and therefore he could throw out this mitzvah of the Torah because he's above it and he's not susceptible to the influence of the wives. So the letter Yud jumps out of the pasuk, Yud being the first word of Lo Yarbeh, the first letter of the word Yarbeh, jumps out and goes before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, hey, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, something's wrong here. You promised that not one letter of the Torah would ever become batel, would ever become nullified and fall into disrepair or disuse. And now Shlomo HaMelech threw me out. I'm not applicable anymore, says the Yud to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amar la HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says back to the Yud, Shlomo Omer U'Mevatel Osi. Amar la HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shlomo v'elef kayotze bo yu betelen v'kutza mimcha eino mevatel. He says, Shlomo will be gone, 1,000 other kings will be gone, and not even a hint of you, not even the kutz, not even a little notch in your letter will ever be gone. My promise stands, says Hashem, meaning to say that Shlomo HaMelech will fail. He thinks he's immune, he thinks he's not susceptible, but he is. Because of that, he's going to fail and disappear. But you, this mitzvah, you, Yud, that represents this mitzvah, lo yarbe lo nashim, leman lo yasur levavo, you will be existent forever. Very interesting idea. Very much the Medrash is reflecting what happens in Sefer Malachim in the story of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech is appointed as the king of Israel following David HaMelech in a very convoluted incident in the way he rises to power. But as he rises to power, we see him absolutely following the dictates of his father David. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu is impressed by him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him brachos upon brachos for his success, and they all come to fruition. and he expands the territory of Israel, and he builds the Beis HaMikdash, and he makes the military strong, and he is the apple of the eye of all kings and all princes and all queens of the world, and the nations of the world come and admire Yerushalayim and admire his wisdom and admire the religion, and everything is going wonderfully until all of a sudden he has a very deep fall and everything falls apart. And it seems to be rooted in the Psukim, Sefer Melachim, seems to be rooted in the abundance of all the things the Torah told the king not to have, while he went ahead and had them. And the root of his downfall seems to be in Lo Yarbe Lo Nashim, in the foreign influence that his wives brought, including building palaces to Avodah Zarah, perhaps even in Yerushalayim itself, which goes to show you just the lengths to which Shlomo HaMelech actually went to accommodate his wives, seemingly by mistake, by accident, proving that he was not immune, that he was susceptible to these dangers, even though he thought himself to be above it. It's clear from the progression of the story in Sefer Melachim that he didn't want to purposefully violate the law of the Torah, but he must have, it's the only explanation possible, he must have thought he was above it. He must have thought he was immune to it, which is why the Medrash is reflecting that sentiment, telling us this fictitious story of how Shlomo HaMelech hears the dictate and says, I'm above that, I don't need that mitzvah, I'm pushing it aside, I'm going to get as many wives as I want, and my heart will never be led astray. But unfortunately, we see in the story, it is. V'atmiya mefureshes lama kitriga rak os yud halo kol hamikra ha'tzrich lavo b'kublana. So Rashwab says an interesting question on the Medrash. Medrash itself is fascinating, just the fact that he quotes it. But I think Rashwab raises the obvious question. Why is it that the letter Yud goes up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to argue against Shlomo HaMelech? Why not the whole pasuk? Why not the whole word? Why not the whole mitzvah? Why is it described as the letter Yud going up to Hashem? V'nira, says Rosh Schwab, it seems, Shlomo HaMelech bevada yada hetev shlo hutru lo rak yudches nashim. Of course, Shlomo HaMelech knew that he was only permitted 18 wives. Elosh Amar Kevan Shekasa Torah Tam Velo Yasur Im Ken B'Makom Shubar Lishol Yasur Levava Mutar. He said to himself, in a place where I'm clear that I'm not going to stray, maybe it's mutter for me to have more than that. V'shir Shlomo HaMelech B'nafsh Shelo Yitachan Sheberibu Nashim Yasur Levavo Sharehu Hu she'amar shir Hashem, hu she'u kodesh hakodashim, v'kulu avas Hashem, v'chol anashim she'ba'olam lo tuchalna la'avira mitvei kusa b'kadosh baruch hu. He assessed himself and says, hey, I'm above that. I'm such a holy person. I, after all, wrote shir Hashem, which is kodesh hakodashim. According to Maseches Yadayim, it's Shir Kulo Avas Hashem, all about the love of God and the connection of God to Jewish people, and all the wives in the world, all the human love in the world will never tear me away from that, will never lead me astray, because that's my focus, that's my energy, that's my be-all and end-all. No other love in the world can lead me astray, and therefore I'm above it. I don't need to listen to them. It's V'alkein b'shah shekara Parshas HaMelech hidgish os yud hamore ala cheirim. So therefore, when he hears the Parshas HaMelech from our Parsha, the Medrash claims that he stands up and says, oh, I'm above that. Why? Klomar, Velo Yarbe Melech Acher Misrael. Velo Yarbe, the Yud of Yarbe, is what he picked up on. And he says, oh, the Yud of Yarbe is applicable to other kings, but not to me. Lo Yarbe, don't accumulate many wives, is applicable to other kings, but not to me. And therefore the Yud is the one that goes up and argues, because it's the Yud that he caught himself on. Lo yarbe, they should not be marbe, they meaning other kings and not me. So the Yud, which is indicating they, the other kings, and not me, is the one that goes and argues before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why it's the Yud in specific. An interesting twist. Great warning to all of us that we should never think we are above the laws of the Torah, even when the Torah gives a reason for a mitzvah. We can't ever assess within ourselves and say, well, the reason doesn't apply to me, so the mitzvah doesn't apply either. It's a dangerous road to go on. It's why Chazal were very hesitant to be Dorish time of the Krah, to examine the reason behind mitzvahs, even though we do that. Sefer Achinuch, others try to come up with rationales and ideas behind the mitzvahs of the Torah, but we know those are not the actual reasons. That's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. And really, in the end of the day, aside from giving us meaning and substance, the reason for the mitzvah doesn't matter tremendously, because it's not going to dictate whether we perform the mitzvah or not, as evidenced by this very big mistake that Shlomo HaMelech made. One other little piece here from Rav Schwab. Later in the Parsha, of course, the Torah speaks about going to war, according to the Rambam. Ki teitzel milchama, when you go out to war, is a reference to milchemes rishos, not a milchemes mitzvah, voluntary war, a war of expansion. And there are various exceptions and exemptions from army service during a war of expansion. And so the Torah says, "V'dibru hashotrim lemor miha ish asher bana bayis chadash v'lo chanacho yelech v'yashov lebeso." One of the exemptions is a person who builds a new home and didn't have a chance to establish it yet, didn't have a chance to build it, to grow it, to establish its foundations. That person, yelech v'yashov lebeso, that person should go back and go home. Why? Pen yamus, because he might die in the war. And another person will come along and establish the house for him. That's considered such a distraction that such a person who's afraid of someone else coming, of dying in war and not having a chance to establish their home, that person is not going to be a good soldier, to be too distracted, and therefore they're dismissed before the war begins. But Rashi quotes on this pasuk, that this whole idea of not being able to establish your home causes a person agmas nefesh, distress, and therefore they'll be distracted. V'tzarich biur. We have to understand a little bit about this pasuk. Why doesn't the pasuk just stop and say, why doesn't it just say, okay, he's going to be afraid of dying and not establishing his house? That's enough agmas nefesh. Why does it add and say, ish acher yachanchenu, and another person will come along and establish your home? Why is that the source of the agmas nefesh? Nira shekol yotzei milchama halchu adas limsor nafsham v'kimu mitzvos boram b'simcha v'tuv leiv v'alkein lo hayta misaso be'einav kinin shel agmas nefesh el sheyesh lachshosh la'agmas nefesh shel ish acher yachanchenu. The reason is because every person, we believe in an ideal sense, every soldier was going out to war knowing that they might have to sacrifice their life, knowing that they might have to give everything up and put it all on the line for the sake of Hashem, the Jewish people, and the land of Israel, and they were ready to do that. That wasn't the source of agmas nefesh. It was something that they were afraid of. Of course, every person's afraid for their life, but that wasn't a source of agmas nefesh, of distress, of stress, of distraction. That was their kavod. They were there for. That was their mission. The source of agmas nefesh was not that he might die and not be able to establish his home. That was something that was a given to them, that everybody had to go through when they went to war. No matter what stage of life they were at, you never finish building, so what does it matter if it's Bais Chadash or something else? If you are in the process of building in life, you're going to be afraid that you don't have a chance to fulfill it and that you might die in war. But that's a normal fear of war, not something that would cause a person added distraction. That's common for every soldier. What causes a person agmas nefesh is ish acher yachanchenu. Hainu acher she'enu ben zugo shel harishon shelo yeh kavanas Hashem lahachzid beso karma v'ishto lios bais nema b'Yisrael l'Torah l'gemilos chasadim ulaharbos b'tzedakah u'legadol banim l'talmud Torah, etc., etc. Your fear is someone else will come along, not you, and establish your home for you, and help to raise your children, and help to shape the home, and they won't shape it in the direction that you wanted. They won't raise your kids to the Torah that you wanted. And that's a source of agmas nefesh. None of us are in this situation, Baruch Hashem, of war at this particular moment. But it's something we'll have to think about. Think about the direction that we chart for ourselves in life and for those around us in life, and how important that should be for us, and that should be on our mind all the time. That should be a source of agmas nefesh. Will it turn out the way we want it? Will it continue in the direction that we are shaping it in? Shabbat Shalom.